Alright guys, what's happening? Today I started off with the idea of making a video of me just piecing the rear end of the car together, ready to put the suspension dampers in when they arrive from the UK. So that meant fitting my new Apex lowering springs, bolting my rear control arms to the body, and connecting them to the sway bar via that little link as well. But what happened while I was putting one side in and just kind of getting that ready to then video the other side and be like, here's what I did earlier, the postman turned up, or the parcel man turned up with my suspension struts from James Hainsworth in the UK, C&J Auto Services. Massive shout out to you, mate. Thank you so much. He went to the post office over Christmas to post these to me here in Australia. So guys, here is today's video on how to fit suspension struts, lowering springs, rear control arms to your Mark IV Escort, and of course my Series 2 Escort RS Turbo. Cue the intro and let's get started. Now I gotta ride or die. And as per the video a couple of weeks ago with the control arms and bushes, here's one I did earlier. So I've got the brand new KYB shocks, Apex lowering springs, and you can see new bushes all around, including some, these are not new, my top hats, suspension cup spring top hat rubber things, but they are very, very good condition. And that I got from James Hainsworth as well. So here's everything that we need to fit. Rear control arm, spring, brand new KYB suspension damper. I'll leave the part numbers for the front and rear KYBs in the video description below. Yes, I am wearing Dorito socks and work boots, and I'll leave a link and a part number for these as well. And as always, brand new bolts and washers courtesy of Scott Kyle that I found on Facebook. So thank you very much, mate. Let's get started.
This is a little bit of a fiddly job, but first up I'm going to grease the sway bar drop link, and then I'm going to feed the control arm into the chassis and push the bolt through the chassis to hold the control arm in place. From there, I'm just going to sit the spring into the control arm, and I'm going to use a jack to make sure that I can jack it up far enough to compress the spring that I can actually connect the sway bar drop link to the control arm. Next, I'm going to grab the suspension strut. I'm just going to feed that through the bodywork and then lightly tighten the nut, just finger tight, to hold it into place. Then I'm going to get the little stub axle and fit the two bolts that hold the strut to the stub axle in place. I had to move the camera to give you guys a little bit of a better view, but feed the bolt through the control arm that holds the stub axle in place. This next bit is probably the most fiddliest and time consuming bit. It's connecting the rear tie rod to the stub axle. So what I did was I connected the bushings first, and you do have two beveled washers on either side. Make sure that when you are connecting those beveled washers, you're not putting the sharp edge against the rubber, you're putting the smooth edge so it bevels away from the rubber so you don't cut your brand new bush. But there, I'm just going to tighten it up gently, but not too tight, and then tighten up the top of the suspension strut with my go-through sockets.
All right, so as you saw, I just put the suspension in, but I did leave a piece out that I completely forgot about, and I pieced it all back together, and I was like, that's not right, that's not going to work. When I go over a bump, the rear shock is just going to go straight through the bodywork, and it's not going to absorb anything because there's nothing stopping it from coming through. So I went and had a look, and I was like, yep, I left off these little hats that go underneath. So I'm going to piece those on and show you so you don't make the same fuck up that I made. All right, so one goes on it this way, like so, like that, and then we'll piece this up through the car, because this is the bit that's going to stop the suspension strut from just bashing all the way through the bodywork up through the top of the car. So yeah, let's go. All right, as you can see, that is in now. Have to do the same on the other side though, because I did that So let's take the other one off and put this in, and then we're good to go. I do have these black Powerflex bushes for the suspension struts, but if you guys know anything about Powerflex, you'll know that black is fucking like cement. So I'm just using the factory ones at the moment. I'll see how they go. If it rides like shit, I'll put these in, but this is gonna make it super, super stiff. I should say, before I go and log off, that all this should be left relatively loose. So I'm just gonna nip this up a little bit, but I'm not gonna torque it down or anything like that. I'm gonna wait until everything's back together and I've got the full weight of the car pushing the vehicle down before I tighten everything up properly and torque it to spec. And then I'm gonna drive, you know, like 100, 200 Ks or 150 miles, obviously once I've put that back in there, and then recheck the torque settings. And if you're changing any suspension parts on your car, you should always do that. Make sure you torque it to factory specs and then drive for a bit, maybe do a whole tank of fuel or whatever, and then re-torque the suspension parts that you have changed out. Guys, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode.